The couple was very unfriendly and fought constantly. Finally, one day, after an argument, the husband killed his wife. The husband hid the body where it could not be found and tried to live his life as if nothing had happened, but there was a problem. The couple had a child. What do you say to a child? While I was worrying about this, a few days, then a week, and then a month was about to pass. But strangely enough, the child does not want to ask where his mother is at all. If he didn't like his mother either? No, but even so, it's strange that he never mentions the subject of his mother at all. My husband decided to take the plunge and visit. Hey, is there anything you want to ask your father? Like, do you have any questions about your mom? The child then replied, why does your father always give your mother a piggyback ride? A friend of mine from college had moved away, so a few of us decided to barge in to chill out. My friend's apartment is at the level of what I would expect for a college student's boarding house. It is not a new building, but it is not too old either. The apartment was 3 stories high. There was a narrow staircase at the entrance and a passageway in the back that led to a room on the first floor. Beyond that seems to be a bicycle parking lot. My friend's room was a corner room on the second floor. It was raining lightly of the day, and I barged into that apartment with my friends, hanging out the liquor and snacks we had bought at the local supermarket. Once I put my luggage down at the entrance stairs and folded my umbrella, one of my friends screamed, "Wow!" Oh, hey, what? What's wrong? No, I was just surprised. I peeked into the passageway leading to the bicycle parking lot at the back of the stairs, where my awkward-looking friend indicated with her gaze. Oh, I thought. A woman stands alone under an electric light in a dimly lit passageway. She was in her 30s or 40s, had long hair, and was all black. Her hair is also pitch black, so against the darkness of the tarmac it looks like a white face floating in the air. She stands there still and looks at me. No, her face and eyes were looking at us, but she was not looking at us. They were not looking at us. It was like looking into the distance in a daze. Creeped out, we bowed our little heads, apologized to her, and headed upstairs to our friend's house. As soon as we entered my friend's room, we talked about the woman we had just met. There's a creepy lady down there. I mean, what is he doing in that place? Aren't you the guy from the apartment? If he is from an apartment, why doesn't he go into his own room? When I was talking about this, a friend of mine who lives in the apartment mused, "You just moved in, so stop telling me such scary stories." As I drank the liquor I had bought and played games, I completely forgot about the woman. Around midnight, I was running out of booze. So 2 friends decided to go out to a convenience store to do some shopping. My friend, the room's owner, and I stood by. But within 5 minutes, my friends, who were supposed to be out shopping, returned. Let's all go. That woman is still there and she scares me. No way. My friends were creeped out, but with alcohol in the air, we decided to go for a test of courage. As I glanced down the stairs, I glanced down the back hall and sure enough, there they were. A woman stands there, looking blankly into the distance, looking exactly the same as she did when she came to the apartment. How many hours have passed since we came to this apartment? Was he in the same position and in the same place the entire time? Even if they were flesh and blood, it's not normal. "Who is that woman?" we discussed on the way to the convenience store. So I offered to say hello on my way home. The alcohol had increased his feelings. However, when I returned, the woman was gone. My friends wondered, but I was inwardly relieved. I stayed the night and returned the next morning, but nothing special happened. Sometime later, a friend of the apartment dweller told me that he was thinking of moving. "You're moving out already? Isn't it too soon?" "There's that woman." My friend said that woman always stands under the electric light in the passageway on rainy days. They say they are gone when the rain stops, but they say it is eerie. It's not hard to understand when one remembers the woman's unusual condition, but it seems a bit exaggerated to think of moving because of it. My friend said, "I talked to that woman for a minute. I thought, that's a pretty bold thing to do. Hi, I just moved in upstairs, sorry for being so loud with my friends the other day." I talked to him. But I won't say anything. They don't even look at us. I couldn't have a conversation with him because he kept looking at the ceiling. I even contacted the management company, but there was nothing they could do. When it rains, they're always there, whether it is morning or afternoon. I am really just standing there stunned. But anyway, my friend said she wanted to move out as soon as possible because it was creepy and scary. I don't think it's a ghost. I think it's a human being. But isn't it scary? It's just standing there all the time on a rainy day. I don't know what it is. Eventually, my friend moved out of that apartment after about 6 months. I don't know who the woman is. Perhaps they are still standing under that dim electric light on a rainy day. This is the story of my trip to Russia. St. Petersburg is a large city in western Russia. It is a beautiful city with many remains of Imperial Russia. I traveled to this city with a casual feeling. We wandered around the Hermitage Museum and many other great tourist attractions. We saw beautiful towns, visited art galleries and museums, and drank good wine. That was all I intended to do. On the third day of my stay in St. Petersburg, I suddenly had a sudden desire to see the remains of World War II. The old name of St. Petersburg here is Leningrad. Leningrad was the scene of fierce fighting in World War II, a hellish battlefield with over 1 million casualties. It also involved many innocent citizens. Some were gouged out by direct shelling, others starved to death from lack of food, and still others froze to death from the cold. I was not interested in history. I saw something in an article a long time ago, cannibalism in Leningrad. Leningrad was surrounded by German troops led by Hitler. The citizens of Leningrad had no access to food or fuel, so they ate human corpses to stave off their hunger and used human beings as kindling to keep warm. Bodies were sold in markets and graveyards were dug up to obtain them. The article was written in a graphic style of writing about such events. Remembering that article, I headed out to a quiet field outside of St. Petersburg. It is strange to me that I chose to go to an empty field in the suburbs, the site of a battlefield, rather than to a museum where I could learn about the history of the war or to a war memorial. Looking back, I think I may have already been called by something that remained at the battlefield site at that time. Plains that were once battlefields. Desolate plains stretching as far as the eye can see. The wind blows through and the short weeds sway softly. Such a place. There are no mountains or hills, only plains spread out on the plain, and in places on the plain, the city of St. Petersburg could be seen in the far distance. It was a lonely landscape. The beautiful sound flowed on the wind. A tone like mourning something sad and pathetic, like the sound of stringed instruments. I head toward the sound. A man was playing the violin alone, under a thin, unreliable tree, like a birch tree. I listened to the violin tone that the man played, a tone that attracts people. The man's appearance is very dirty. He wears brown long pants that are torn in places and a tattered brown coat over a dull, black and white shirt. He is not Russian. At first glance, he looks Asian, maybe Japanese. I was curious about the man's identity, but more than that, I was greatly drawn to this music, the sound of the violin, and could think of nothing else. You can lose track of time and listen. The sound of the violin, sometimes intense, sometimes quiet, echoed a wonderful melody over the field. I was the only spectator. It was a concert in a field, with no one else to listen, just the audience and the performer. Suddenly the sound stopped. Apparently, the song had ended. I applauded the man who was playing the violin. The man put the violin in its case with great care, turned to me and asked, "Are you from Japan?" "I was born in Japan and my name is Tanaka. You are also Japanese, aren't you?" the man said cheerfully and openly. I was surprised and introduced myself. The man and I then talked a bit and decided to have dinner together. The destination was a small, ramshackle bar. The bar is characterized by a large number of liquor bottles lined up on the shelves by the wall. I have abandoned my family and my work and am touring Eastern Europe. I am playing a requiem on my violin, tracing the battlefields of World War II, the man says. The man's life in Japan was affluent, his family was close, and he had a stable income from his job with a well-known orchestra. Leaving behind a life that could be considered smooth sailing, the man set out on a journey. Berlin, Warsaw, Kursk, and Leningrad. All of these places were the scene of World War II and the desperate German-Soviet war. The man says that he has traveled to the places where the German and Soviet armies fought to the death in blood-soaked battles. He plays requiem songs at battle sites, in front of cenotaphs, in POW camps, and for the souls of those who have been scattered by the ravages of war. The man says that he has continued this kind of life and has come here to the suburbs of St. Petersburg. I may be rude, but let me ask you this. Why did you leave your life in Japan to make such a journey? Why did you make such a journey, leaving your life in Japan behind? I asked that way. It is important to mourn those who died in war, but is it worth abandoning one's family and one's work? That was my question. The man's answer was surprising and memorable. I don't know myself, he replied with a distant look as he tipped his glass. The man said, "A long time ago, I saw a strange TV program during the late night hours. In an empty meadow, a large Japanese woman was singing Mozart's Requiem. In the empty meadow, the woman sang as if she were singing to someone else. I would like to play the Requiem in that meadow myself. I can't sing, so I play the violin. I want to add a violin part to her singing." He thought of it that way. Every day after that, he practiced the music of the Requiem as if he was obsessed with something. He quit his job, left his family, and finally came to Europe before he knew it. I care about my wife. I have children. I had many important things in Japan. I do not hate my wife or my children. Then why am I here? I don't know myself. The field I saw on a strange TV show is right here on the outskirts of St. Petersburg. Here, I keep playing the Requiem myself. All I can think about anymore is the Requiem. The man was mouthing this with unfocused eyes, wincing slightly. Thereafter, I returned to Japan. I haven't seen the man obsessed with requiem since I had a drink at that bar. One day, a friend of mine who loves to travel abroad came to my place to greet me, saying that he was going on a long trip to Russia. I wondered how the man from the requiem was doing, whether he was still playing the violin in the fields, or whether he had returned to Japan. I was curious about this, so I asked my friend if he had time in his schedule to see if he could find the man who played the requiem. After returning from the trip, a friend told me that the man who had played the requiem had died in a field in St. Petersburg. Local Russians told me Japanese people with violins played every day under the birch trees in the field. He never tired of playing the requiem, rain or wind, but one day he stopped hearing the sound. When he went there, he found the man was dead. A few years ago, a large Japanese woman was found emaciated and dying under this birch tree. She was rumored to have said, "That place is cursed." The man I met, a violinist, and a large Japanese woman, both of whom were not eating properly and are believed to have died of emaciation resulting from malnutrition. Still, he did not stop playing the requiem until the day before his death. I then wondered about the requiem, and about the German-Soviet War in World War II. German soldiers fought bravely for their revered Führer Hitler or for the I. The Soviets prepared units in the rear of their own forces to shoot fugitives in order to prevent the escape of soldiers fleeing for fear of a fight. On the one hand, they fought to regain their lost wealth and pride through war, and on the other hand, they fought forward even in difficult circumstances because their allies would shoot them dead if they ran away. Leningrad is the city named after Soviet leader Lenin. The Soviets were forced to fight desperately to prevent the Germans from taking the city named after the communist leader. The Germans also relentlessly besieged Leningrad, either to ensure the city's fall and discredit communism or for strategic reasons. Soldiers whose bodies are blown up by bombs and shot to death by bullets, they cannot abandon the war and run away. The civilians involved and killed are even more tragic. Without weapons, without food, without information about where the enemy is or where to run, they just die. When someone dies, we hold a funeral. We mourn the death of the deceased and pray that the deceased will go to the other world properly. But in the midst of extreme combat, we have no strength to bury the dead, no time or strength to mourn their deaths. The only thing we can think about every day is our own survival. So I guess someone has to do right by these poor victims of war. A fiddler and a large woman were chosen to serve as his consolers. I was apparently chosen as well. I dream of that field. A field in the suburbs of St. Petersburg. No, for those ones it will always be Leningrad. The name of the town may have changed, but for those who have died and remain frozen in time, the name change is irrelevant. A dream of a field of Leningrad filled with dead people. A man in military uniform with parts of his body blown off, a boy emaciated and reduced to skin and bones, a woman with empty eyes. The dead, military and civilian alike, stand on the grassy plains. 1,000,000 victims of war. A dream of many dead people standing around in an empty meadow. Eventually, the sound is heard. Violin tone. Mozart Requiem. A piece of music for the repose of the dead. Waking from a dream. I would like to play a requiem of consolation, with a man who plays the violin and a large woman. I have come to think of it that way. I think about requiem every day. I can't get any work done. I don't even think about going out with friends. I used to play the flute when I was in the brass band. Would a flute not be appropriate for a requiem? It doesn't matter. As long as the requiem is filled with the spirit of repose, it's fine. I would like to perform the requiem. I would like to play the requiem at. I want to play the requiem in front of the dead in that Leningrad field. I set out. I will never return to Japan. Goodbye. I left just that note at home and set out on my journey, carrying only my flute.